Flatliners sounded amazing. I was so excited for this. I bought the DVD. As soon as it arrived, I was ready to watch it. And honestly, I think my expectations were too high. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a bad film, but I didn't love it. This was released originally in 1990. It's directed by Joel Schumacher and written by Peter Filardi. And we have a brilliant cast, including Kevin Bacon, Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, and William Baldwin, and it's about these medical students who flatline each other. So they try and experience what life is like once they're dead, what's life like on the other side, and then after a minute or so, the time that they're under varies, but after a minute or so, they bring the person back. And to begin with, they're really excited about this, but as each of them flatlines, they start to experience things that are maybe not things they'd want to remember, not things they'd want to think about. I won't spoil it by going into too much detail, but the point is that it's not a very pleasant experience for them, and it becomes quite an intense and, in theory, scary experience. I didn't think it was a scary film. IMDb describes this as a drama, a horror, and a sci-fi. And I think it does fit those three, but it wasn't very scary. For me, the scariest bits, and scary is too strong a word, but for me, the most, I guess, intense bits were when they were bringing them back after they'd flatlined and had their near-death experiences, or I guess temporary death experiences, was the concern, I guess, that they wouldn't be able to bring them back, and whether they successfully do throughout or if there are any problems, I'm not going to say. But that, for me, was more intense than the actual experiences themselves. We do have some good special effects and things, it's not too bad, but I just didn't find the events that fascinating. And I didn't find it scary at all. I didn't think the horror elements in this were really there, to be honest. And it is obviously only partly a horror, but I didn't think it was scary at all. And as I said, maybe just a little intense, but nothing too strong. The characters are absolutely fine. I don't have any problems with them. The performances are very good. And the pacing definitely is brilliant. It gets to the point immediately, and we don't spend too long with each person because they take it in turns, of course, to flatline and go on to the other side and have their experience. And I think that each one lasted the ideal amount of time. I never felt like it was dragging on or anything, so that's not a problem either. I think for me, it's just, it didn't make me feel very much. I found it to be a fascinating concept, but obviously once we got over the initial concept, the uniqueness there kind of disappeared as we got used to it. And I didn't find it very scary. For me, as I said, the most intense part was the anxiety of whether or not they'd be able to bring them back. There was always that concern. But beyond that, I didn't feel very much. So it's an interesting idea. It's relatively well executed, but depending on what you're looking for, it might not meet your expectations. But nevertheless, it's a good idea. It's relatively well executed. We have a strong cast and well-written characters and some decent special effects. So I can't say it's a bad film. It just didn't affect me anywhere near as much as I hoped it would, whether that's scaring me with the horror elements or making me really emotionally invested in the story. And I never was. So I didn't love it, but if it does sound like it appeals to you, then I'd say Flatliners might be worth watching once. But for me, certainly once is enough.